The market street was loud with voices, engines, and the smell of food from different alien stalls. Human worker Daniel moved through the crowd with careful steps, holding a small box of tools in his hands. He had just finished repairing a broken generator for the colony. His shirt was already old and worn, but at least it was clean. He did not like to stand out, and being the only human in this alien city already made him different enough. Suddenly, someone rushed past him too fast. A girl, tall with pale silver skin and glowing eyes, bumped into his shoulder. Daniel staggered back. The small box almost slipped from his grip. He looked down at his shirt and froze. A strange dark liquid, sticky and glowing faintly, spread across the fabric. The alien girl gasped, covering her mouth with her long fingers. I'm sorry. I didn't see you." Daniel clenched his jaw. The liquid smelled sharp, almost like burned metal mixed with fruit. He tried to wipe it with his hand, but the stain only spread wider. His shirt was ruined. He had only 2 shirts in this colony, and now one was destroyed. "You messed up my shirt," Daniel said in a flat voice. The girl stepped closer, panic on her face. "Please, let me fix it. I will wash it. I swear it will be like new." Daniel frowned. He did not want more attention. Some aliens around them had already stopped to look. He hated the way they always stared him, Detta whispering behind his back. He shook his head and started to walk away, but the girl grabbed his sleeve, careful not to touch the stain. "No, you don't understand. I must fix it. If I walk away without repairing my mistake, my family will be dishonored." Her eyes were wide, glowing softly in the dim light of the market. Daniel sighed. "It's just a shirt." "Not for me," she whispered. Her voice was soft, trembling. He studied her face. She looked young, maybe his age, maybe younger. Her clothes were simple but clean, a sign she belonged to a modest caste. Her hands shook as she reached toward the stain again, but pulled back quickly, as if afraid. Daniel finally gave up resisting. "Fine, wash it. But I doubt you can fix this mess." Relief flooded her face. She smiled nervously, then motioned for him to follow. She led him away from the crowded street, down a narrow path between high stone walls. Daniel followed slowly, every step filled with caution. He wondered why he agreed. Something about her eyes made it difficult to refuse. The path grew darker until they reached a small door carved into the wall. She pressed her hand against a panel and the door slid open with a hiss. Inside, the air smelled damp and cold. Strange humming sounds echoed. Daniel stepped in carefully. The room was dim, filled with tanks of glowing water. Pipes ran along the walls, dripping with condensation. "This is where we clean," the girl said. "Not like human water. Our water carries memory. It knows what to keep and what to erase." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "Water with memory? That sounds ridiculous." She gave him a small smile, then pointed to his shirt. "Take it off. Please, I will show you." Daniel hesitated. He didn't like the idea of undressing in front of a stranger, especially an alien girl, but the sticky liquid burned faintly against his skin, making him uncomfortable. With a quiet sigh, he pulled the shirt over his head and handed it to her. The girl took it carefully, almost reverently. She dipped the fabric into one of the glowing tanks. As soon as the shirt touched the water, the liquid shivered, sending ripples of light across the surface. The stain began to dissolve, threads of dark liquid pulling away like smoke. Daniel stepped closer, eyes narrowing. That's not normal." The girl looked up at him. "Nothing here is normal. Not for you." Her words made him stiffen. For the first time, he noticed how close they stood. The glow from the tank reflected in her eyes, making them shine brighter. "What's your name?" he asked, voice low. She paused, fingers still holding his shirt in the water. "Lyra." Daniel nodded once. "Daniel. Daniel," she repeated softly, as if testing the sound. The stain vanished completely, leaving the shirt brighter than before. She pulled it out slowly, water dripping, but somehow leaving no wet mark behind. She held it out to him with both hands. "Here. Clean. Better than new." Daniel took it, inspecting the fabric. It looked untouched, like the accident never happened, but he noticed something strange. The shirt was warm, almost like it carried her touch inside the threads. "What did you do to it?" he asked. Lyra lowered her gaze. "Our water remembers. Now your cloth remembers me. That cannot be undone." His chest tightened. He didn't fully understand, but he felt it. Something had changed. Not just the shirt, not just the moment. Something deeper. Behind them, the door creaked. A faint sound of footsteps echoed in the passage. Lyra's expression turned pale. She grabbed his arm quickly. "You must leave now," she whispered urgently. "If they see you here with me, everything will change." Daniel stared at her, confused and tense. The glow of the tanks flickered against the walls. The footsteps grew louder. And in that moment, he knew this accident was only the beginning of something far more dangerous. Daniel pulled the shirt over his shoulders, still feeling the strange warmth in the threads. Lyra's hand was still on his arm, her grip light but trembling. The footsteps outside grew closer, echoing like slow drums in the narrow hall. Daniel's instincts told him to stay quiet, but her fear pressed against him like a wave. The door slid open, and two figures stepped inside. They were taller than Lyra, wearing robes lined with silver patterns. Their eyes glowed brighter than hers, colder, sharper. One of them scanned the room, his gaze falling on Daniel immediately. His lip curled. "A human," he said with disgust. "What are you doing here?" Daniel opened his mouth, but Lyra stepped forward quickly. "He is my guest. He needed help. I was only fixing what I ruined." Her voice shook, but she held her chin high. The taller alien tilted his head, his glowing eyes narrowing. "You used the memory water with him?" His tone carried disbelief and then anger. "Do you even understand what you've done?" Lyra didn't answer, her hands clenched at her sides. Daniel looked between them, unsure whether to defend himself or stay silent. The second figure stepped closer, sniffing as if catching a scent. He touched Daniel's shirt with 2 fingers, then hissed. "The bond is already made. Foolish girl." Daniel frowned. "What bond? It's just a shirt." Both aliens turned toward him sharply. "To you, maybe, and just to us, it is more than cloth. What she did ties you together. Her spirit touched your thread. You belong to each other now." Daniel's stomach tightened. The words hung heavy, impossible. He glanced at Lyra, and for the first time she didn't meet his eyes. Her face burned with shame and fear. The taller alien pointed at her. "You will come with us. The council will decide your punishment. And the human." His glare shifted back to Daniel. "He should not be here. He should not exist in this chamber at all." Daniel's fists clenched. "I didn't ask for any of this. She spilled something on me. She offered to fix it. That's all." The alien ignored him and grabbed Lyra by the wrist. She gasped but didn't fight. Daniel felt a sharp twist in his chest. Something in him refused to watch silently. He stepped forward, his hand catching hers before they pulled her away. "Wait," he said firmly. "She was just helping me." The alien snarled. "You dare touch what is not yours?" But the moment Daniel's hand closed around Lyra's, something invisible pulsed in the room. The water tanks rippled violently, glowing brighter, humming like a deep voice from the walls. The robed aliens staggered back, their eyes wide. "The bond," one whispered. "It reacted." Daniel didn't understand, but he felt it too. A spark ran from Lyra's skin into his veins, warm and alive, as if her fear had become his own. She looked at him, finally meeting his eyes, and whispered only one word. "Run." Without thinking, Daniel pulled her toward the side door, away from the glowing tanks. Shouts echoed behind them, footsteps pounding on the wet floor. They raced down a narrow passage, every corner darker and tighter. The sound of the water chambers faded, replaced by the pounding of their hearts. Daniel didn't know where they were going. He didn't know what this bond meant or why it mattered. All he knew was that Lyra's hand was in his, and letting go suddenly felt impossible. The path opened into a small courtyard under the night sky. The alien city stretched out around them, towers glowing with blue light. Voices shouted behind them, growing closer. Lyra pulled him toward another alley, her breath quick and broken. "You don't understand," she said between gasps. "What happened in there? It changed everything. They will hunt us now." Daniel stopped for just a second, forcing her to look at him. "Then tell me what this bond means." She stared at him, her lips trembling. For a moment she seemed ready to speak, but then the sharp sound of armored boots cut through the air. She flinched and pulled his hand again. "Not here. Not now," she whispered. "If they catch us, it won't matter what I say. You'll be gone before you hear the truth." Daniel swallowed hard, his grip tightening. He didn't know what danger they had stepped into, but the way she said, "You'll be gone," chilled him more than the cold night air. He followed her without another word, the shouts and footsteps chasing them deeper into the unknown. The night air was heavy with mist as Daniel and Lyra slipped through the twisting alleys. The city around them glowed faintly with alien lights. tall structures humming softly in the distance. Every shadow seemed alive, every corner filled with the threat of pursuit. Daniel's lungs burned, but he kept running, driven by the fear in Lyra's eyes. At last, she pulled him into a narrow chamber, hidden behind a curtain of woven vines. Inside, the air was damp and smelled of old stone. A single crystal lamp flickered on the wall, casting pale light across her anxious face. She finally let go of his hand, but he noticed how reluctant her fingers were to release his. Daniel leaned against the wall, catching his breath. "Now you need to tell me what this bond is. I'm tired of running blind." Lyra's throat moved as she swallowed hard. Her glowing eyes avoided his for a moment. Then she whispered, "When I washed your cloth in the memory water, my essence touched yours. It wasn't supposed to happen. A bond like that, it is sacred. It is binding. My people believe it cannot be broken." Daniel blinked at her, half in disbelief. "So what? You're saying we're stuck together because of some washing ritual?" She winced at the sharpness in his tone. "Not a ritual, a vow. My spirit marked your thread, and now you are tied to me. To refuse it is shame. To accept it is dangerous." Daniel laughed once, bitter and short. "This is insane. I didn't agree to anything." Her eyes lifted, finally meeting his. "Neither did I. But the water remembers. It chooses. And now the council will see us as bound. To them, I have broken a law." He studied her face, seeing how much fear weighed on her words. Her voice was steady, but her hands trembled against her knees. "And what happens if they catch us?" he asked quietly. Her silence was the only answer he needed. He exhaled, rubbing his temples. "Great. One spilled drink, and suddenly my life is ruined." But when he looked at her again, something in her expression stopped him from saying more. She wasn't just afraid for herself. She was afraid for him. Before he could ask another question, faint voices echoed outside the vine curtain. Lyra stiffened. Daniel's hand automatically went to the small knife he carried at his belt, but she shook her head quickly. "No fight. If you hurt them, they will never forgive you. They will never stop." The curtain shifted, and a shadow passed over the dim light. Lyra moved closer to Daniel, whispering so soft he barely heard. "If they take me to follow, you will not survive their trials." Her words hit him like ice. He almost answered, but the sound of footsteps drew nearer. The voices were chanting softly, in a language Daniel couldn't understand. The air in the chamber grew heavier, like the walls themselves were closing in. Then Lyra did something that stunned him. She pressed her hand against his chest, just over his heart. Her palm glowed faintly, and a warmth spread through him. "This will hide you from their sight, only for a short time," she whispered. "When they enter, they will see only me." Daniel froze, feeling the warmth pulse into his veins. His skin tingled, his breath slowed as if the world had turned dim around him. He realized she was using the same power that came from the memory water, but now it was flowing directly from her. "Why are you doing this?" he asked. Lyra's lips trembled, but she managed a small, sad smile. "Because you didn't run when you could. Because for the first time, someone held my hand and didn't let go." The curtain rustled again, and this time 3 figures stepped inside. Their eyes glowed bright, scanning the chamber. Lyra stood tall in front of them, her shoulders squared even though her knees shook. Daniel, hidden by her touch, watched helplessly as one of the figures spoke. "You know the punishment, Lyra. You bonded with a human. You betrayed your caste. Come now or suffer worse." Her silence was sharp. Daniel's fists clenched, rage rising in his chest. He wanted to step out, to fight, but her hands still pressed lightly on his chest, reminding him of the promise she had made. The glow in her eyes dimmed as she lowered her head, finally whispering, "I will not go with you." The chamber went silent, the figures shifting in disbelief, and Daniel realized with a chill that she had just chosen open defiance, not for herself but because of him. The 3 figures stepped closer, their robes brushing the damp floor. Their glowing eyes narrowed as if cutting straight through Lyra's trembling body. One of them hissed like steam escaping a crack in iron. "Defiance will cost you everything. You think this human is worth exile?" Daniel felt the invisible veil of her touch still covering him, hiding him from their sight, but it also felt like a chain locking him in place. His blood boiled. He hated standing still while she faced them alone. Lyra straightened her shoulders, though her voice shook. "If exile is the price, I will pay it. I will not break the bond." The leader's expression twisted in disbelief. A bond with a human is not sacred, it is filth. He raised his hand, and the vines behind them burned away as if struck by fire without flame. You will come before the council. Your shame will be displayed for all to see. Daniel's fists clenched. His mind screamed to step out, to fight, but something in Lyra's eyes told him to stay hidden. She looked at the ground, letting them grab her wrists. As their cold hands locked around her, Daniel felt the warmth of her touch fade from his chest, leaving him exposed again. The veil dropped, and he was visible once more. The guards froze when they saw him. One whispered, "The human, he still carries the bond. It clings to him." The leader's glare hardened. "Then he will be dragged too. Let the council decide if his blood deserves spilling." Daniel's knife was in his hand before he thought about it. The chamber seemed to shrink, shadows flickering on the walls as tension tightened around them. Lyra shook her head, her eyes desperate. "Don't, Daniel. If you fight, you die." He didn't lower the blade. "If I don't, you die." The guards moved quickly, surrounding him. He ducked the first strike, instinct guiding him more than skill. The second guard tried to seize his arm, but Daniel slashed shallow across the wrist, forcing him back with a cry. The leader lunged forward, glowing hand reaching for Daniel's throat. Before the strike landed, Lyra shouted, her voice carrying a strange power. The water in her veins lit beneath her skin, and suddenly the chamber shook. The crystal lamp shattered, plunging them in flickering light. The leader recoiled as a force pushed him back. Daniel stared in shock as Lyra's body glowed faintly. She was breathing hard, almost collapsing, but she raised her hands and the walls themselves seemed to tremble. "Enough," she gasped. "You will not take him." The guards hesitated, exchanging uneasy looks. The leader spat on the ground. "Very well, but your defiance is not strength, it is weakness. The council will hear of this, and when they judge you, the bond will drag him down with you." They retreated, slipping back through the ruined vines, their shadows vanishing into the mist. Silence fell heavy in the chamber, broken only by Lyra's ragged breaths. Daniel rushed to her side, catching her before she collapsed fully. Her skin was ice cold, the glow fading. "What the hell was that?" he whispered. She leaned against him, her voice barely audible. "I showed them enough to make them wait. But I cannot do it again. They will come back stronger. Next time, they will not let us go." Daniel's grip on her tightened. His mind spun with questions, but one thing cut through the noise. He couldn't leave her now. Whatever bond she spoke of, he felt it too, deep and undeniable. Outside, faint horns echoed through the city, a sound that made her flinch. Daniel looked toward the noise, his jaw set. "Then tell me what I need to do, because if they're coming for us again, I'm not letting them take you." Her eyes opened slowly, fear mixing with a strange, fragile hope. "If you mean that, then you must be ready to stand before the council of my people, and if you stand there human, you will be judged as one of us." Daniel felt his pulse hammering. He didn't know what kind of trial awaited, but he already knew there was no turning back. The council chamber was vast and cold, carved from dark stone that shimmered faintly with threads of light. Daniel stood at the center, his shirt, the same one that had started everything, feeling heavier than iron on his back. Around him, rows of alien elders sat in a half circle, their eyes glowing like distant stars. The air carried the weight of judgment, silent but suffocating. Lyra stood beside him, her wrists bound with silver bands that left faint burns on her skin. She kept her chin raised, but Daniel saw the tremor in her hands. He wanted to speak, to tell her it would be fine, but the words felt weak in his throat. One elder leaned forward, his voice echoing through the chamber. "You human, do you know what you carry?" Daniel forced himself to meet his gaze. "I know she helped me. I know you treat it like a crime." Murmurs rippled across the council. Another elder hissed, "Not a crime, a violation. She bound herself to you through memory water. That bond is unbreakable, and you are unworthy." Daniel clenched his fists. "I didn't ask for it, but if it means standing with her, then I'll accept it." The chamber erupted in whispers, some sharp with anger, others curious. The eldest figure raised his hand, silencing the voices. "If you accept it, then you must prove it. A bond cannot exist without trial. If you survive, she lives. If you fail, both of you are erased." Lyra's eyes widened, fear flashing through her calm mask. She turned to him, whispering urgently, "You don't know what they mean. These trials are not made for humans. Daniel gave her a faint smile. Guess it's time they see what a human can do. The council wasted no time. Guards dragged him from the chamber into a cavern lit by burning crystals. The air reeked of ash and metal. A deep growl echoed from the shadows. Daniel's knife felt small in his hand. From the darkness, a creature emerged, its body armored with jagged plates, eyes burning red. It was larger than any beast he had seen, its claws scraping sparks from the stone floor. The elders' voices thundered from unseen speakers above. First trial, survive the guardian. Daniel's heart pounded. He glanced back. Through the bars of the chamber's gate, Lyra's glowing eyes locked on his. She mouthed a single word, run. But Daniel didn't run. He raised the knife, the weight of every whisper, every glare from the council pressing on his shoulders. The beast roared, shaking the cavern, and charged. Daniel dove aside, the claws slashing where he had stood. Dust and shards flew across the floor. His mind raced. He wasn't stronger, not faster, but he had survived wars before. Not with muscle, but with grit. As the beast lunged again, Daniel rolled beneath its strike, jamming the blade into a weak seam between the plates. The creature roared, thrashing, its tail smashing stone. Pain shot up his arm as he barely dodged the swing, his knife lost in the creature's hide. He staggered back, searching, desperate. Then his hand closed on a shard of the broken crystal wall, sharp and glowing with heat. He gripped it tight, ignoring the burn. When the beast came again, Daniel didn't dodge. He leapt forward, driving the shard straight into its eye. A shriek filled the cavern, piercing and raw. The beast collapsed, twitching, before going still. Silence fell. Then the council's voice filled the chamber. First trial complete, the bond endures. Daniel stood over the fallen beast, his chest heaving, his hands shaking from blood and heat. He looked toward the gate. Lyra was still watching, her lips parted, eyes shining not just with fear now, but with something else. She whispered his name, though he couldn't hear it through the glass. And in that moment, Daniel realized this was only the beginning of proving himself, not just to the council, but to her. The floor of the cavern shifted beneath Daniel's feet, stone panels grinding open to reveal a second chamber below. The beast's corpse sank into the pit, swallowed by darkness. Before Daniel could catch his breath, the council's voice boomed again, calm but merciless. Second trial, truth of loyalty. The ground tilted, forcing him into the chamber below. He landed hard on his knees, dust rising around him. This place was different. No beasts, no fire. Instead, the walls shimmered with water flowing upward like rivers defying gravity. In the center stood two figures, chained back to back. One was Lyra, her glowing eyes wide with fear. The other was another alien girl, nearly identical, but her features blurred as if she was made of shifting mist. A guard's voice echoed from above. One is real, one is false. Free the true bond. If you choose wrong, both vanish forever. Daniel's chest tightened. He stepped forward, heart pounding. Both girls looked at him with desperation. Both called his name. Daniel! The one on the left cried, her voice sharp and urgent. It's me. Please, you must choose fast. The one on the right whispered his name softer, her tone trembling. I can't tell you why, but you'll know it's me. You'll feel it. Daniel's pulse raced. They looked the same, sounded the same. His hands shook as he reached for the chains. Think, not with eyes, not with ears, with the bond. He closed his eyes, shutting out the sound of their pleas. In the dark of his mind, he remembered the warmth in his shirt, the pulse in his chest when her hand pressed over his heart, the way her fear had felt like his own. He listened, not to their words, but to what stirred in his veins. When he opened his eyes, he turned to the right. Without hesitation, he broke the chains, ripping at the glowing metal until it shattered. The mist girl screamed, her form melting into smoke, dissolving with a hiss. The true Lyra stumbled into his arms, her breath shaking against his chest. You knew, she whispered, her voice cracking. How did you know? Daniel held her tightly. Because it wasn't about what you said, it was what I felt. Above them, the elders spoke again, voices heavy with something like unease. Second trial complete, the bond strengthens. But the chamber didn't open this time. Instead, the flowing water on the walls grew brighter, flooding the room with light. Lyra pulled back, fear flashing in her eyes. Daniel, the third trial begins here. It is the trial of sacrifice. The light rose higher, almost blinding. Daniel could hear the council whispering in tones that made his skin crawl. A shape formed from the glow. Two paths, two doors opening in the wall. One glowed blue, the other red. A voice thundered, "Choose. One door frees her, but seals you inside forever. The other frees you, but destroys her bond. No path saves you both." Daniel stared at the doors, his breath uneven. Lyra clutched his hand tightly, tears rising in her eyes. "Don't do it," she whispered. "Don't you dare give yourself away for me." He didn't answer. He only looked at her, the glow of the doors reflecting in his eyes, his heart beating like a drum against the silence. And in that moment, Daniel knew the council wasn't testing her anymore. They were testing him. Daniel stood frozen between the two doors, the red glow and the blue glow burning against his eyes. The council's words echoed inside his head, sharp as blades. One path meant his death, the other meant Lyra's. No middle ground, no escape. The silence of the chamber pressed down on him like a weight. Lyra gripped his arm, her voice breaking. "Don't choose for me. I would rather fall than see you sacrifice yourself." Her glowing eyes shone with tears, but her chin stayed high, her pride unbroken even in fear. Daniel's jaw tightened. He looked at the red door, then the blue, then back at her. For the first time he smiled, not with joy but with defiance. "They said no path saves us both, then I'll make one." Before she could stop him, Daniel released her hand and stepped forward, not into the red, not into the blue, but straight toward the glowing wall between them. The council gasped above, their voices turning to alarm. "Impossible! That door does not exist." Daniel ignored them. Every nerve in his body screamed as he pressed his hand against the wall of light. It burned, but he didn't let go. He pushed harder, teeth gritted, until the glow split like glass under strain. A crack opened, spilling a fierce white light across the chamber. The ground shook. The red and blue doors shattered into dust. Lyra staggered back, shielding her face. Daniel roared as the crack widened, swallowing them both in blinding light. When the glow faded, the chamber was gone. They stood outside under the open night sky. The horns of the council blared in the distance, but the air here was fresh, free. Lyra looked around in disbelief, then at him. Her lips trembled. "You broke the trial. No one has ever." Daniel took a shaky breath, his body still burning from the light. "I told you. I wasn't letting them decide for us." She stared at him, her fear melting into something else, something fierce and alive. Slowly, she reached for his hand again, her fingers curling into his with certainty. "Then the bond is ours, not theirs." From far away, the elders' furious voices carried across the wind, vowing punishment, vowing pursuit. But Daniel only tightened his grip on her hand. The bond was no longer an accident, no longer a stain to be washed away. It was a choice, carved out of fire and defiance. As they walked into the shadows of the city, chased by threats and the promise of war, one thing burned clear in Daniel's mind. This wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something the council could never control.